Hi there, future me and whoever's also watching. This video is a recap of a Zaloon from Interintellect I attended yesterday, titled Once Upon a Time, Narrate Your Story, and it was hosted by Anwar. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, I probably am. Um, and yeah, this was a Zaloon about storytelling and telling your own story. And storytelling is something I've been getting really deep into lately, so the Zaloon was like spot on in terms of timing for me. And we started it by everyone telling a story about their lives and telling what theme they're currently putting into their own lives, so into their story. Well, the chapter you're currently in? And so everyone told a different story. Very different topics appeared. Again, I'm not gonna like mention anyone's name or specific story because the personal things you say in the saloon stay in the saloon, and you should respect that. But then we covered very different topics based on the stories that appeared. For example, we talked about helping others by helping yourself first, which means that so you become the catalyst, you become something that people they can look up to, and that was a part that really stuck with me. That it's really powerful because when you think about it, when I think about it, most people that have helped me are people who are helping themselves, and so they became a catalyst for me. So that was powerful. Um, and then because I mentioned the startup I'm creating and all of that's my current chapter, or that's the chapter that I'm currently in my own story. We talked about telling a story to sell a product, and that was really cool. Everyone mentioned the example of the pen. It's a classic. And we briefly talked about the power of a story of those stories in terms of selling things for a while. Um, and then we talked about stories as a way to overcome slash understand trauma. So our brains are wired for narratives and not for logic. I think that's even a quote that someone mentioned somewhere. Not sure. But yeah, our brains are wired for narratives and not for logic. And so putting things that you've lived into a cohesive story that you can go through sometimes helps you understand things. And we touched on that, on like creating that story around yourself to help you understand your surroundings and yourself better. Um, and then we also moved on to like timeline, the concept of timeline, because every story follows a timeline, even if there are parallel timelines like in Inception or anything like that. There's always a timeline, hence the word time and timeline. And we talked about following the default timeline of life, like going to school, going to uni, working for a while, having kids, getting married, and whatever. And we talked about how different people identify with different timelines, and we should not always follow the default timeline because that might not be the one for us. If it's the one for you, great, just follow it. If it's not the one for someone else, they shouldn't follow it. But then there's always a lot of pressure to follow that timeline because everyone sort of works around it as the framework that guides everyone or most people. And a clear example that I gave in the saloon about that was, for example, I'm in the last year of uni right now, and I miss most of my classes because I'm not really into uni. But then I pay to be in 3 hour saloons from Interintellect, which is pretty funny. In the same day that I miss Zoom classes, I pay to attend Zoom saloons. So yeah, maybe that default timeline is not for me. I don't know. And yeah, we then moved on to talking about the power of stream of consciousness writing. I don't know if this is the right term to talk about it, but what I'm trying to explain is when you simply think about things and have like a conversation with your inner child or with yourself, whatever concept fits best to you, and you just write things down, and how the story kind of changes just by writing without thinking much or without like processing what you're thinking. It's just like you think something, you write it down, write it down, write it down, and then you mostly end up with questions. And a few people mentioned that they love that for them the best answers are questions. I think that's also true for me in many fields. Not all of them. Sometimes knowing things is good. Um, and yeah, we then moved on to talk about willpower and how to get it, or not specifically how to get it, but how to interpret willpower and lack of it, how to know if you're actually lacking willpower or if it's something else that you're lacking, and what it means to actually want to do things but not being able to do them, or like interpreting if you actually want to do those things. Just that sort of introspection that helps you have a compass that guides you. And then, like, unfortunately, I had to leave 1 hour or something later. I don't know at what time they finished, but I left at 9 p.m. because of some family related stuff. So I did not stick around for the rest of the saloon. But the plan was that the host was going to give a small presentation on storytelling, like 10-15 minutes, she said. And then there was an open discussion, and everyone would tell a story about their objects. I was really looking forward to that part, like hearing the objects of those people, hearing the stories of their objects. But yeah, I did not make it through it. So I guess someone can tell me how it went. Tell me. No, yeah, that's basically it. I had to leave earlier. So it was a really good saloon. If you were there, thank you for being there. You made it good. And if you weren't there, be sure to join more saloons. See ya.